snack cakes, and well, no, it's not hey, what is it? Welcome?
I don't know.
Hello?
Welcome back, snack cakes. I
What's
don't
up, snack cakes? Welcome back.
A greeting.
Greetings, snack cakes.
Snack cake. Yeah.
What's up, snack cakes? Welcome back to the Tulip Podcast. I am not your usual host, but it's me, Sarah, back again with another bonus episode of our podcast. Sort of following this little fun little 48-hour road trip that Morgan and I did to Chicago, which was precursed by watching the pro shot of Twilight After Dark, which is a Twilight burlesque parody, and we're here to give our thoughts on that today because the recording we did in the car was not usable.
No, it really wasn't. And we had the best intentions and the smartest thoughts in that moment. And instead, all you hear is like cars. So
Even
we're,
when the mics were working, I think
I know.
when we tried to record the Twihard ones, I forgot to turn on the mics properly. But even it was a whole mess.
It was okay though, because the camera also kept tilting like that.
Yeah, and I had to fix it every 5 seconds.
Yeah. But now here we are 4 months later.
Woohoo! Yeah, it's been a while.
Mhm.
For context, when we first started like filming the for context, when we first started filming the podcast, I had tonsils. I don't have those anymore now.
January, early January, I think.
Yeah.
I had to have been really early on. Because I was saying how I was like, oh, we're so good. Like Dusk is taking like its little break right now, whatever. And like 2 weeks later, we were like full force back in it.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
probably for Fringe 2024. So,
And this episode will be coming out after probably the entire run of that is done.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. This episode, assuming all goes according to plan, is probably living at the end of this whole lovely podcast journey that we've taken you on. Or
And
you
then we'll
all.
have an announcement coming for season two.
Right? New guests, crazy things, but like for real, if you want a season two, please let us know. Um, yeah, what has you two lit this week, Morgan?
Mine is so niche. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, this is a cop out, but it's also what I've been doing all week is like we released the trailer and first episode of the podcast this week, which has had me too lit. It's fun to see things pay off
Mhm.
and like see them through to completion. It's also been just I edit all of these, so it's really been fun to like sit in the room and I'm kind of like the most familiar one with what people are saying on the podcast right now, and I'm excited for like the rest of the cast to revisit all that they've said and for our fans as well to like go through it and just hear all of our crazy stories.
You have so much power because no one else, like in the cast or crew or anything, knows what the rest of us said about anything. But I'm like always curious.
All good things, I think, especially about each other.
But I'm just like itching to hear it all. I'm like, oh, I want to hear like all their stories and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's fun. You're in a good spot.
What can I say? I'm just so powerful. What's
Similar,
your niche one?
yeah. So similarly, this week we've had a lot of new content kind of being announced or coming out, which has been fun. But that we've mentioned Fringe 2024 is coming up. We open exactly 1 month from today on
Oh
August.
shit.
Yeah, so it's coming really soon. But I've been meeting with the cast for that show all throughout the week. It's just been like Zoom calls all day long, explaining to them what the show is going to look like this year because it's a different version. It was intended to be initially like a cabaret or just like the highlight reel of moments that people really liked from the full-length musical that you guys have seen as we're revising and getting it ready to hopefully the goal is by the end of this year, early next year, make the performance rights licensable to performance groups. So we're trying to get it ready for that. But we also knew there was demand from people who couldn't see it last year. And we were already going to be at Fringe with our other show, No Filter, which we'll have
Woohoo!
already released an episode about that. We knew that we like wanted to bring it back in some way. So we were like, okay, cool. We'll do like all of the crowd favorite moments. And then we were going to host or like post voting and polls and stuff on Instagram to decide on some new content. And then we already had some unreleased bonus content. We're like, oh, cool. It'll be like a variety show almost of this stuff. And instead, it turned into Dusk 2. So it's like people to not like it contains moments from like parody moments from the entire Twilight saga. So that'll be fun. And I've had a lot of fun working on some of
I've
the
had a
new
lot of
material
fun
as
being some of
well.
the first ears on this stuff
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, but I'm always like, Sarah, I can't tell anybody yet. Do you want to know?
Absolutely.
So we've had a good time coming up with like the projection package for that, what that'll look like, and then just all of the stuff that comes along with it. By now, the bonus content that will be like supplemental to the Fringe show is going to be out, which is a roast of Edwin and Bia from the perspectives of all of the other characters in the show and series and stuff, including some of our favorite morph suit characters. So
Woohoo!
just like
Not
all
me, unfortunately, but
we could roast them for sure.
I mean, you want to like have me film something?
We could have me film something.
Yeah. So by now we'll know whether or not I made it in.
Yeah. But we'll have like all sorts of fun stuff coming out on YouTube. So I'm excited about that. But some of the new songs like or new plot points have prompted revisiting the source material. And that's been, I think, like what's got me too lit this week for sure. I unintentionally last night sat listened to the entire Eclipse audiobook.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I
And
was hoping you'd mention that.
texting back and forth with Eva. We're 5 hours apart. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to catch you when I can and give you my live updates to what's happening because that one we've talked about a lot without having it like right in front of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you guys will know why by the time this is out, I'm sure.
Woohoo!
We're really excited for the Eclipse content.
Is there going to be a pro shot made of the bite-sized
Mhm.
celebration?
Yes.
Amazing. So if that's available to rent right now, I'll put the link right here and in the video description. Please
It's a
support it.
it's a shorter show. It's about 50 minutes long, and it, like I said, goes through points in the entire series. You get to see a different dynamic with the family. Our narrator R gets different co-narrators this time rather than her mom. So you've got all sorts of new fun stuff. I think it'll be cool. That's got me all fired up right now because we have 30 days to get this in the best order we can.
Woohoo! But
Mhm.
enough about ourselves. We're here to talk about Twilight After Dark. I remember there's co-creators on this definitely, but we specifically got to meet the creator and the person who plays Bella, Maddy, um, and all of this stuff, and it was so nice getting to meet her.
I think it's Maddy McCartwheel on,
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to go follow there.
Amazing fit checks, by the way. No notes.
Yeah, so good.
Before we get too into this as well, just wanted to say if you have any vested interest in watching Twilight After Dark, this is a burlesque show that goes up in Chicago and they are anticipating return October 2024. So if you don't want to be spoiled, this isn't the episode for you. Bye. And also we truly have no point of reference for the preferred pronouns of a lot of the
Mhm.
performers here. So we will likely be referring to these like the characters that they play and like Edwin, wow. Edward as he, Bella as she. It is not our intention to offend any of the performers by misgendering them. Um, we'll try and be as conscientious about that as we can. But again, some stuff slips through the cracks. If we offend you, our apologies immediately.
So it'll be the pronouns we know of the characters from the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we should also mention, because you said that they'll be making a return, Try Hard, which we have talked about, has announced their return.
Yes. I think they are also going back up in October for a quite a long run, it seems like. And I may or may not slide a little self-tape over their way.
I think you should do it. I think you should make it a point to be in every Twilight parody currently
Collect
running.
them like the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, you'd be
Well,
like, well, I just have played every parody version of.
I mean, watching Twilight After Dark has really inspired me to like start getting into the artistry of burlesque and like maybe be a stage kitten for them or something, which I
Oh,
learned about what a stage kitten was from Maddy. But I guess top first question, what is your like what do you know about burlesque? What is your experience with the art form?
I have been to a couple burlesque classes. I grew up dancing. I've worked as a choreographer for several years. So I've got some experience with a variety of dance styles. I don't have a ton of experience dancing it. I really appreciate the art form. This is the first burlesque parody I've ever seen. So that was fun for me. I was like, ooh, this is going to be different. And it was like, I was like, is it going to feel like other burlesque type performances I've seen, but then just like not meant to be taken as seriously? But burlesque sometimes isn't meant to be taken that seriously anyway. So I'm like, I don't know. I think it's just such like a range, like it's like any other form of
Yeah.
performance art, which was cool. But they knowing like their inspiration for what their show was made it really easy to follow, even I think you don't have any familiarity with burlesque.
Yeah.
And if your only point of reference is the movie Burlesque, which Kim Gigante's in, so like you might have seen it. Don't think
Wait,
that.
he was in that. Oh my God.
I was like,
I
Sarah,
forgot.
you're James, how do you not know?
Sorry. Sorry. I'm slipping.
Our unnamed antagonist over here.
Yes. Sometimes I really let you down, and that I apologize.
You could make it a point to play that character in every form of Twilight parody out there.
My tap skills are not enough to get through Hunter, though. Like I've just started learning how to tap
One day.
one day.
But no, I don't have a ton of familiarity with burlesque. I'm very I'm always like very impressed by the art form and just like everything I think it represents. Like there's such a level of empowerment and a call for like everyone involved to support each other and support each other's confidence and stuff, which I think is really cool. And I think that was really apparent just like watching their show. It seemed like the cast had each other's back, which sometimes you can't tell that just from seeing something. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like it was really neat how clearly that came across. And then when we had the opportunity to talk to Maddy, I learned a lot more about burlesque. And I would like to apologize retroactively again to Maddy for the migraine I had that night and how I could not see straight. And I was just like a zombie, but
No, I
thoroughly,
think she I think she still had a good time.
yeah, like thoroughly attributed them. So funny, like so smart, and had such good and like clear ideas of what this show is and like what it's going to become and all that, which was really cool. And then we had the pleasure of seeing Try Hard with her as well. So we all
Yes.
got to bond during that
And
a
both
little.
of you watched me absolutely smash a basket of mozzarella sticks,
Oh, well,
which is so much respect. Thank you for going on that journey with me.
of
My
course.
experience with burlesque, this is like the first serious burlesque I think I've watched, aside from like heyday BuzzFeed, let's try burlesque video sort of thing. So I know nothing. I've
Okay.
learned some from Maddy and like, but like going into this, especially the first time, we've rewatched it in preparation for talking today, but the first time I watched it, like I knew nothing. I didn't really quite know what to expect. Like, and I was absolutely pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, there were so many points the first time I remember talking about being like, was this intentional or was it like the happiest coincidental accident that it happened this way and like gave so much metaphorical depth and stuff? And it's so hard to tell like with the parody because I know people ask us stuff and they're like, why this or why not this? And I'm like, just kind of shook out that way, or it's like something that was intentional and they're not picking up on it. So it's hard to know. And I would love to maybe like chat more and see kind of where their heads were at with that. But there were so many things that I was like, wait a second, like this works so well as burlesque. Like it almost feels like it was like called to be part of this art form at some point. So it was really cool.
I thought it crossed my mind at like 11 p.m. last night to
Mhm.
text Maddy and see if they wanted to come on the podcast.
Aw,
And I was like, that might be too stressful for her though. Like
maybe.
to suddenly have to pick that up.
But maybe when they like reopen or something, we could.
Yeah. Season two, season two. Well, I mean, getting right into it, I remember making this point the like first time I'm pulling up my notes. I took notes as I watched, which was a double-edged sword. They're so unhinged. Um, but oh goodness. I remember Maddie talking about the reason the show was created is that they specifically wanted to create more opportunities for local Chicago burlesque dancers because
Mhm.
they were sort of limited in the work that they could get. There's some tea there, but it's not mine to share.
Yeah, right, right.
And I mean, it starts with a Bella feature,
Mhm.
which was so fun. I think features in this case are like the solo numbers of each character, like it's their time to shine, which I remember saying this last time was like such a because it does take you through the entire story of Twilight. It's
Mhm.
such a good way to establish Bella as the protagonist. Like
Mhm.
she's on there first. She says she's not like other girls. To a trap remix of Bella's Lullaby. And like, if it wasn't clear, burlesque is not for children. And if you are under 18, you shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, definitely
Go
18
now.
plus.
But for Bella to be the first person to pretty much fully expose herself to the audience like creates that sense of vulnerability. We're following her journey and it like establishes her as the protagonist. Like
Mhm.
this is the first person you can attach yourself to.
Mhm. Yeah, that was done really well. And I mean, also, like, before analyzing anything else, like, they were also talented too. Like, these are
Oh,
seasoned performers, like, they know what they're doing. So it was really cool to watch.
the dancing, because we're both dancers.
Mhm.
The dancing is insane. Like, what did I write? I wrote down something that will probably be funny in retrospect, but I think this was during one of the group numbers that I took this note where I was talking about they use a lot of voiceover as like their
Yeah.
lines and point of reference and help moving the story along. And it
Mhm.
was great because first of all, I don't think I'd be able to talk after having spent that much energy on a dance. And the like sharpness and precision of the movements is insane. Like they're hitting those isolations.
Yeah. Well,
It
from
was
a like a technical production standpoint too, I'm like, that is brilliant because then you just have it all built into the track and
yeah.
you don't have to mic anyone because like you don't want to try to mic people while they're dancing, especially the amount of like movement with clothes and stuff like that. Like there's it's just asking for nightmares. So I'm like, that was brilliant. Like that was so smart.
And I found the note. It was like for anyone who has any preconceived notions of what it is like to perform burlesque or what you should expect to see. Like I wrote, you think you can just stand there and get undressed to the beat? No, bitch, hit your isolations.
I mean, like I think anyone who has danced before who hasn't tried it, and there, I mean, I'm sure there are like degrees to learning all of this stuff. These guys have been doing it for a while, like they're pros, but um I think it would inspire watching this, like anyone to maybe want to try it once or twice.
It inspired me.
Yeah, I'm like, where do we get into classes?
Like, Maddie,
I know,
do you
right?
want to teach us?
Yeah, I'm like, this is so cool. This is so
It
fun.
was so cool. But yeah, started on that Bella feature. Um, I immediately noticed they're like getting tips as they're performing,
Mhm.
um, and stuff like that. A lot of the performers, I assume this was people who elected to have them, are wearing knee pads, which is amazing.
Mhm.
During these transitions from song to song, the stage kittens come in and sweep up all the tips. It just like became very obvious that they do have the safety of their performers at the forefront of their mind immediately.
Mhm.
So amazing.
I assume part of that is like inherent to the art form too.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like a level of security is so ingrained because it's so necessary to be. And it should be with everything, but I think sometimes like other forms of performance aren't as sensitive to that. And it was really cool. Like watching it, I wasn't ever once worried. And sometimes I do get like worried watching things on stage. I'm like, that looks like it was dangerous, or whatever. I'm like, oh, everyone's solid. Like they're gonna be okay.
Right. So after that, I believe it was the Charlie feature,
Mhm.
which was so fun. And it immediately like established different styles among performers, and there's a lot of different styles of just dance itself that make its way into this parody. But like everyone's characterizations are different, and everyone has like a different take on what they can do with their body. So it's
Mhm.
not like watching the same thing over and over again. There is absolute variety, and it's so fun. My favorite things of Charlie's feature was the beer dick.
Yeah.
They have a beer bottle that they use as, you know, as a phallus. This is gonna reveal how sheltered I am. But like the characterizations of the character, like immediately the song choice, mannerisms are all different. It's not following this formula all the time of tease and then strip and dance.
Mhm.
Um, at one point I thought it looked like the actor playing Charlie had a gun holster, but no, it was just like den a denim thong. Like that was that part of the costume and like the costume choices as well. I know Maddie during the Bella feature had like was it vampire teeth or like lips
Mhm.
as their pasties? And
Which
then
were used also in Twilight. I remember
during the
during the panel, yeah.
daddier than
And I was
you.
like, those are the same ones I had. Yeah.
Yeah. Which are so fun. And then Charlie has like sheriff stars kind of. They're
Mhm.
like just stars, but like that was what it evoked.
I can't remember when we were talking with Maddy who like took the lead on costume design, but everything was very intentional. Like,
It was the person who played Alice. I remember seeing
okay,
that in the credits.
yeah, the everything was so intentional and so well done. There's
And
one other,
handmade a lot of them, I think.
mhm. Yeah, their baseball costumes live in my mind rent free.
So good. Oh, I have a
It's so
note
good.
about
I
that.
want one.
Yeah. How much?
Right.
Um, there's the Charlie. I mean, what did you going back and watching Charlie's? Anything else come to mind for you?
Well, speaking of things that live in my mind rent free for the past 4 months, anytime I've thought about this show, well, one of the numbers coming up, I think about unintentionally all the time. This one, though, if I ever think about the show or like see something on Instagram that they've posted or something, the visuals from this scene, like everything about it just fit together so well. Like all of the coloring, like everything, I was like, no, that was like, it was so cohesive. It was great. And to have it like that so early on too, like it really helped establish, I think, the tone of what the rest of the show is going to be.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, I'm sad. Like I'm tuned in to see what choices you make next and stuff. Not that I wasn't like that from the first number, but I think that like the Bella character has so much room for like growth throughout the show. Like her character kind of has more of an arc that she follows, whereas Charlie is kind of set and
That's the only time you do see Charlie.
yeah, like but I'm saying though, like Charlie as a character
Yeah.
throughout most of Twilight is just like set. Like it's
Yeah.
like middle-aged 40 something year old guy. It's like this is my life. These are my fish, like whatever. So I was like, so we kind of like this is one of our static characters and what they look like. and it was so strong and so bold. So I got way more excited about seeing all the other ones that are kind of like that, like the family members and stuff.
And
Was
just like on the whole, Twilight itself, due to the preferences of the writer, um, tries so very hard to be minimally sexual. And in doing that, it becomes riddled with sexual tension. That the creators of Twilight After Dark definitely saw that and ran with it. And they were like, we are going to make all of the implicit explicit,
yes.
which is such a great take and way to parody that, like in the art form of burlesque. Like it was such a good approach.
I really love that you brought that up because I kind of forget that it's not ever explicit in the books or anything. So I'm like, I think the fans have made it like fanon almost that they're like, oh, Bella's like always thinking that way and stuff, especially later in the series. And that comes through in the book, but like in such an innocuous, like innocent way. And this is just so much more bold and like it was so empowered. All of the characters
Yeah.
were just like from the forefront, like this is what I stand for and stuff, which was a nice take on it because they could still be awkward and stuff like the characters you know and love, but a new, like more adult side to them almost, which having grown up with the content, like it was a cool shift to see, I guess. Like it was like almost age wise and stuff, like meeting
Right.
more where the audience now, like that was fans then would be at, I think. Which was cool. Like that was it was a cool take on it for sure. And then
Yeah.
I also laughed because one of the songs that will be out by now it is a little bit more explicit from Dusk than our previous content was.
Art
And that's one of
inspires
the ones we
art.
did. It's one of the ones I've been working on heavily this week. So
I got a little teaser of it last night. Sincerely hope the Fringe audience this year enjoys the heck out of it.
I'm like, I was texting the vocalist this morning and I was like, guys, I fear we're recording this for sure. Like the video will be out, but the song itself, because I'm walking around my house right now singing it like Bet on It from High School Musical 2 style, like doing Troy Bolton-esque performances to it. It's a really fun one.
So,
But
I mean, thank you guys for inspiring us sort of in that manner.
I didn't, but I love that it goes hand in hand a little bit with like the vibe of this show too. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
I think it's fair game that people can find those parallels and stuff, or no, not parallels, what am I trying to say? They could find those moments of like they could make a more empowered choice here, and this is what that might look like and
Yeah.
stuff, kind of moving away from the source material.
Well, after Charlie, we get
Mhm.
into one of like the first group numbers, which was the Cullens entrance. And I, on that one, you can like tell, and this is apparent throughout, but you can tell everyone's having so much fun. And
Mhm.
like, I didn't realize that burlesque could be a group or partnering thing. I thought it
Mhm.
was mostly just like solos, but the group choreography itself is so solid and also, again, just a testament to the talent of all of the dancers there. Like it's hard, but they're all in sync, on point.
I think about this number at least twice a week.
The Collins
I'm a
entrance.
really big fan of it. This is the one to Vroom Vroom, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
so good. The music's perfect for it. Like throughout, you could tell they picked songs either because they like them and they fit, or because it was like the obvious choice. I'm sure it was a little bit of both. And this one was so good. Like
That was,
it
I mean,
wouldn't
my
be an
thoughts on the
expected
music
choice.
as a whole, the music choices as well. I feel like burlesque lends itself to a lot of those campy choices. Like they chose Vroom Vroom for the Collins entrance because they all pulling up in their fancy cars.
Mhm.
Um, but like throughout, like they're not afraid to go into like this one old country song that talks about being a sheriff or something. Like it's not like they aren't choosing sexy music because they have to be sexy dancers, they're choosing
Yeah.
fun music that empowers them and makes sense with the plot and will be like little throwbacks if you happen to know that one song from the 80s that they used for this feature and stuff. It was really nice.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not informed enough on the art form to say like in general if that's how it tends to be, but especially like as a parody, that worked so well. Like it's fun music that people might already know, and then getting to like let the characters that you also know kind of live through it was cool.
It leans into the geekiness of just being in a fandom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I can't remember if this is right after the Cullens entrance, but they did the car crash scene as well, which I think was the real tease of the show.
That was funny.
Yeah, Edward is like goofing off the entire time.
Mhm.
He hits someone's vape,
Yeah,
like takes selfies with all of the Cullens.
driving so slow.
Yeah, the person who was like driving the car was on one of those like four-wheeled scooters from like elementary school gym class, being pushed along by a friend, and they like go into slow-mo, and like Edward is just taking their sweet time.
I loved the version of Edward in this.
Yeah.
I was like, where this is so funny. Um, yeah, I don't know. Not a version of him that could have existed in the books or the films, like the way that they were done. So that
Absolutely.
was one of my favorite parts of changing the genre for this, was getting to see how the characters were reimagined as like
But I do think Edward has like that inherent sassiness.
well, oh my gosh, I know, rereading Eclipse last night. I'm texting people, I'm like, yo, guys, he's always been a troll. Like he's funny. I will
And so this performer just like brought out
like
that side of him.
yeah, I think like he has funny elements to him that if you take it seriously, he definitely has red flags too. But like they're extreme red flags, but I'm like, I think he was kidding a little bit there. And it really came out in this. I was like, oh, okay, he's like a shit starter for sure. And so empowered, which is the opposite. Like that's I think the most in canon sexually repressed character for sure. And not here. So
No, it was so
it was
good.
really fun. It was a really cool take.
I think also around this time, especially the first time I watched it, but going back again, that's like the moment that you start to register how thoughtful the costuming is. All
Mhm.
of the Cullens are in black lingerie. Bella's in this blue set that like puts her apart from everybody else. Characters later show up in red. Like it all is thematic and keeps people to their groups and like tells more about their character,
Mhm.
like uh, sort of sets up that like outsider versus the it gang between
Right.
Collins and Bella, and really well done again.
It's a really smart way to go about the costuming for it too. I thought for anyone who isn't really familiar with what's going on, or the characters looked like the characters, like you could tell who was supposed to be who, but not so much as what people might be used to seeing for a show that's like really heavily costumed or wigged or anything like that, where it almost ends up being like a cosplay. So because like the clothing choices and stuff are intended to also work well with changing clothes kind of like throughout the show for these characters. I thought that was a really smart way to do it because you can then, if you like pick up on the theme, identify what group they belong to and then be like, okay, that's that person. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't know, I'm sure people watching, especially watching the recording, have a great idea of what's going on. But
It was like trying to pick out which siblings were which. Like I think I could immediately tell who Alice was, but it took me a while to figure out. And then like that Alice goes up and kisses Jasper. So I was like, okay, that's who that is. Um, but it took me a while to figure out which of the performers was Emmett and was Rosalie. And
okay.
like if you watch like them and how they act and their mannerisms, like it doesn't take that long to catch on.
Mhm. Yeah, but I'm thinking especially like in the group numbers and stuff, like if you've got a lot of people on stage, that's a great way I thought to identify like they're part of this group because they're all in the same color and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it was cool.
Um, oh my goodness. After this
Mhm.
is Dr. Daddy.
Yeah.
For real, Dr. Daddy for real. It's a Carlisle feature.
Yeah.
Um, I thought this one was really nice because it kind of broke the traditional setup of like the other feature numbers where it starts with heavy characterization and like teasing and what they're going through, and then progresses to more complicated choreography, including
Mhm.
like stripping and being sexual and stuff like that, like showing that off. For Carlisle, it started off with like the like I'm so hot, don't you want a piece of this? Like attitude, and then ends with them like playing the role of an actual doctor, which I think was so genius itself, that setup as well, because when you first see Carlisle walk through those doors, your first thought isn't, oh my God, yay, my doctor's here. It's who the fuck is he?
I thought it was great too because one of the things like the fandom talks about so much is this inherent chemistry they identify between Bella and Carlisle. So this being in the hospital after she gets hit by the car or nearly gets hit by the car was a really fun way to address that without like really explicitly being like they have chemistry, you know? They're like, you decide. Do they?
Yeah.
Not. So that was fun. They did a
And
good
there was
job.
also like I think this might have been the first instance of audience interaction throughout the whole show, which was nice the way that they like would pull people obviously who were comfortable with it into what they were doing. Like, um, I think Carlisle offers his stethoscope to somebody and like gets them to take his pulse in his heart and other places. Which is so fun. And the Red Cross pasties.
Yeah.
Ah!
Like they're so funny. I don't know. I'm like
Yeah.
the creative team had a sense of humor and they're so funny.
After that, there's like, it was like, hey, like there's more voiceover, and it was like, hey, you need to chill. Like, she can't know that we're vampires, which goes into this sort of montage dance set to I'll Be Watching You
Mhm.
every single day. Like that song, which just made me freak out when I heard it.
Yeah, I loved how many genres were present.
Yes.
Because it also like really lends itself well to the wide array of personalities that are in this series. Like it's very much, I think, in every interpretation I've seen of it, including the source material, like an ensemble piece where all of the characters have their own like significant kind of not necessarily plots happening at that time, but like significant backstories and stuff, or even like kind of the tangential characters and stuff. You know enough about them to have like a relatively high degree of interest in them. So it feels very evenly spread and real in that way, where it's like it feels like you're placed in high school sometimes too. Like you're like, oh, I'm at a small school and I know like all of these things about them. And having the different music genres there, I'm like, that kind of felt like it was representative of that in a way.
Yeah.
It was cool. They're smart. Like they did a great.
I like, do you think they're gonna change anything when they bring it back?
I don't know. I was wondering about that because it worked well. Like it flowed really well the way that it was set up. I remember Maddy mentioning like, oh, next time we might need to figure out a way to work in like a Charlie and Carlisle moment or something. I'd love to see
Yeah.
it. I would love to see it. Um, I don't know. I don't know what they would change.
Also, like, I have this saved to mention for later, but now's a good time to do it. Like, the actor who played, or actor, dancer, performer who played Carlisle, that's the only thing they do in the show. Um, yeah. So the cast is a lot bigger than you think, and it also gives like everyone their moment to shine.
Mhm.
Like, even like you always see Jasper with Alice, but Jasper gets their own solo moment, and like it felt like a celebration of truly a community, not just five people who are willing to do quick changes.
Yeah, and what I know of burlesque too, that is like one of the values of the art form is like it is community.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, I did notice like it's a large cast, which I'm always thinking from like our production company that is bringing you Dusk and No Filter and other projects, has the mission of supporting emerging artists by creating opportunities, but also creating opportunities for their original works to be produced. So that's something that's really important to me is like making room for everyone to collaborate creatively, and whenever possible like large casts do lend themselves well to that and create opportunities for people to perform and stuff, and especially knowing that Maddy and her team were coming from a place where they were like, if we can't find opportunities, we're going to create them for ourselves, and then
Yeah.
they opened to share with other people too, so that was really cool.
It was like, yeah, it just makes my heart feel full and really
Mhm.
happy that you you don't see that effort very many places, which is
It can
sad.
be, yeah,
But
it can be tough like logistically.
yeah. Mm.
It's tough, but I think it was really cool that there were that many people who wanted to be involved, and that the community there for burlesque is like in Chicago is seemingly big enough that they could have different people like
With a
doing
wild
silhouette
array of
throughout the
different
show.
skills. I mean, right
Right.
after this number of Carlisle and I'll Be Watching You and stuff, the we see the evil trio for the first time.
Yeah.
Laurent and Victoria and James, and they come
Mhm.
across the stage and they kill a stage kid. I didn't notice that the first time watching through it, so I wanted to call attention to it. That was awesome.
Is this right like before the chase, like the like Scooby-Doo style
No, this is
later?
like it was just like during a scene transition, it seemed like the Stagekins came back on,
Oh,
helped
okay.
like move off the props and like get the next scene set up. And the evil trio like comes out from a corner, like walks across the stage, and I think they like snap her neck or something and drag her off.
I missed that. That's
Yeah,
smart.
it's a blink and you miss it moment. It took me watching it for a second time to notice that, but like
Mhm.
very, very I have many thoughts on how they use the evil trio, all positive, but it does very much follow the movie of like, and now we cut to this random B plot for 30 seconds.
You mean in Twilight when they cut on the boat? No, it's the one where they cut and it's just the feet running across the roof, and you're like, what's going on?
Precisely.
Yeah. I like I liked how they integrated the evil trio throughout the show too. Like it wasn't just like they show up at the end and it's like, oh now like whatever. And I guess in general, like one of the things I really loved, especially about watching Twilight After Dark so close to when we saw Twihard, was that we had two very different interpretations of a Twilight parody to look at. And like we've been working on our own, as
Which is also very
everyone
different.
knows, which is very different. Like there's so much room for interpretation with that type of material, and the tone that parody has, I guess. Like I think everyone was still like within parody without leaning too far into satire, but came up with it's like the completely different stories. And it was really interesting to see what points stood out from the source material to everyone, like that they were going to highlight and make a part of the show. It was interesting to me that both Try Hard and Twilight After Dark had that moment in the hospital, with
Mhm.
Carlisle, because
I
like it is
remember
a good moment.
there was like I can't remember if you asked me specifically or if you were just like taking ideas, but I remember like thinking about that moment like in the hospital, especially since it's a bit like longer in the extended version, I think.
Mhm.
And I had just watched the extended version for the first time before going into Dusk. Quite a treat. Um, but like you were like, let me know if you have any like things you might want us to play around with. And I was like, what if there is some musical number where Carlisle and Edward and Rosalie all agree to collectively gaslight Bella? That's a song.
You know what? Actually, we were working on some bonus stuff. So if you want to collaborate on that, we can. But
Oh, hell yeah.
we were the amount of stage time Dusk already took.
Yeah. It was
And
the
we're
same
cutting things.
length as the extended version.
Yeah, we're like cutting things down and everything anyway. But it's crazy when you add music, like things get longer. It's wild.
What?
Right. So there
Back
were
to
definitely moments we couldn't include that I thought was really cool to see how they imagined them playing out, like in their versions of the show.
yeah. And back to Twilight After Dark.
Mhm.
I think the next moment was like there was I think a Googling montage, maybe. But the one that really stood out to me and something that I do want to talk about is the moment Edward reveals himself as a vampire. Because the song choice, Shine Bright Like a Diamond. Oh my God, I cannot speak. That's so embarrassing. Um, but the again, just a really smart point of choosing that song and waiting for that moment to be the place that Edward like starts to strip down and show his true self lines up to the moment where he starts being his true self around Bella. Like,
Mhm. I I mean, yes, that was so smart. Also, damn, can he dance? Like
oh,
they're
yes.
all so talented, but that one was really fun. Like that number is just really fun.
Mm.
It was really cool though to see that much trust and empowerment between those characters that early on in the story because changing the genre, especially like changing the genre to burlesque, made it so they could have like that degree of vulnerability and intimacy so much earlier than they do in the actual story, right? Like, as I said, I just listened to the Eclipse audiobook last night and they don't start having more I don't even want to say vulnerable, but like more open communicative conversations until that point. And look at what they've already been through as
Yeah.
characters, like to get there. So kind of a
Edward was
statue
gone
building.
for months on end.
They went through a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
willing to die for each other, sort of stuff, multiple times.
And
And
just
that
now
had
they're starting to
happened.
breach that questions.
Right, right. Like starting to get to the point where they're like communicating well and are on the same page and like are meeting each other where they're at a little bit more. And you see that earlier on here, which as like the writer in me is like, where does that take them in the future? Like of if there were to be sequels to Twilight After Dark, like what would their relationship look like then later on? That's really fascinating to me because I'm like, we established like this closeness or at least like openness to closeness from the beginning. Like they barely know each other yet. So that was really cool, I thought, just
One,
thinking of the future.
yeah. One thing I really liked about this particular moment as well, I think this was after Like a Diamond ends, but there is very obvious diversity in the cast that I'm glad Twilight After Dark embraces. They celebrate it, and they bring in ballroom, like queer ballroom culture into like Edward's voguing. Which here comes the hurricane, which is so exciting. I used to listen to that like to get me pumped up to go to Dusk rehearsals.
No way.
Yeah, I did. Like at
That's
that
cool.
time it was on my like on repeat.
Okay.
So it was like a, ooh, we share this special memory and also you're celebrating the diversity and like all of these different styles of dance that are so important and need to be celebrated more.
Yeah, in the source material, there isn't a whole lot of properly handled diversity or representation
Yep.
in several ways. Um, Sometimes actively the opposite, which I don't think was intentionally malicious, but people could definitely still be offended by that.
Hmm.
And I love to see anyone really that has taken on the task, the project, like lovingly, of creating something that is inspired by this massive phenomenon that so many people love, like getting to put a little bit more of what they would have liked to have seen, or making sure that audience members do feel like they're represented by it. Like that's really cool. And I think
Yeah.
in every example of like the fan made Twilight content, you see a lot of that. So that's really cool. And I think like there's always room for more too. So yeah, that number was just so funny.
If I can
That
take you,
performer is so good.
yes, if I can take you also like to the moments that follow this number, but like to the Twilight movie specifically, like when he confesses that he's a vampire, and then there's just a random montage of them like running about and he's showing off his powers, and then they're like in the field and they love each other, and then more running about and whatever. There's there's a lap dance number between Bella and Edward, and I was like, oh, okay, now we finally know what they actually did during that montage.
Do you think that's really what happened in the wedding?
No, but it's funny to look at it that way of like now we know what like they didn't show.
I think until maybe shortly after their wedding, if he had seen an ankle, he would have started crying. Don't include that. I'm just saying.
Also, at this point in my notes, I have I want lessons, Maddie, period.
Yeah,
Like
for real.
next time we link up, just like give me a little. The only thing I know about burlesque, like other than what I have learned from Maddie, is I studied abroad and the translator in our program was a burlesque dancer, and they told me about specifically if you have nipple tassels on,
How to spin them,
how
right?
yeah, how to spin them clockwise versus counterclockwise, or like in versus out. So that's all I know. I'm open to learn more.
Like I have one party trick.
Oh man. And then all of this leads up to baseball. And I think there was a clip of the baseball dance that went viral of theirs. I hope so. But they have this like beautiful, like pinstripe leotards, like bedazzled
It's
pinstripe
so good.
leotards,
Yeah.
which I believe are like one of the things that was handmade. And I think it says
Mhm.
baseball on it.
I think so. I love them.
Yeah. And there's like a little solo feature where Alice does the kick pitch.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that the last time, and it's so nice. And it's just Supermassive Black Hole. They start
Mhm.
with I Don't Dance from High School Musical, which yes,
Perfect.
but then
No
they're like, no,
notes.
no, 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 it's the Twilight one, the Twilight one. So they do that whole scene to Supermassive Black Hole, which was just everything I wanted in that
I know.
moment.
The visual of it all was so good. I love those costumes so much. They did a great job. Oh, like everything we found out afterwards was pretty much handmade. So
Yeah,
such multi-talented individuals.
yeah. I think also in terms of the dancing, because like that's the angle I can approach this from, like to try and relate to what I'm seeing. Like
Mhm.
there's moments in the baseball choreography where it's like, okay, everyone's like in this same position and like an organized thing. But you know, when your like dance teachers would be like, but you get to improv. So
Yeah.
like I think there's a moment where they're all on the floor and they're all doing stuff down there, but it's all different from each other. So like I wrote the same but not really stuff
Mhm.
is so good. It's to die for because it's still incredibly cohesive, which can go really wrong when you're asking people
Oh,
to
it-
improv like that.
yeah. And it looked so cohesive and like well done. I'm sure they're heavily rehearsed, but
Mhm.
I it was another point for me where I was like, I love that we're getting to see the characterization here. Like without because we talked about there's like some voiceovers and stuff, but there's no real dialogue that's happening at all. And it's not as opposed to the other shows we've talked about, like musicals, where you're getting like they're singing about their feelings or anything like that, or the plots that are happening or anything. You're just seeing it all through dance. With the exception of these little voiceovers. And I don't think you miss anything. Like, you know, the entire story that's happening. And I got a lot of the really strong character building moments through those points of differentiation.
Hmm.
So this was a good point for it too, like in baseball.
I think in general as well, like the audience itself did not seem to be there for a like obviously they're there for a burlesque show. That's what they paid to go to. But like they are there because it's such a brilliant celebration of Twilight is, and people are excited to see the way that they retell it through this art form.
Right.
Like that was the energy I got from the audience on that night is that like they were so down with all of the different interpretations.
Yeah. They had a good audience too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
everyone loved it. When it comes back, I want to see it live.
I was gonna say, you want
Like,
a
let's
road
plan that.
trip again?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we should see it live for sure. Also, I apologize that I've been sitting like a goblin this entire time. I told you before we started recording, this chair is really hard. It hurts so bad.
Do you want me to include that for the audience?
You can if you, well, if you want. It's showing me I'm too weak to do burlesque.
You are not. You're
My
not.
chair hurts. I would definitely need the knee pads.
Oh, absolutely. I would need those. I would need like heels that aren't because I just have bad ankles. They're not what they used to be. And like, yeah, I can still walk in heels, but if I was doing choreo and like over like character shoes, I think stop at like 2 inches. So like more than that, I don't think I could do it. I would just absolutely wreck my ankles, which is also like a testament to how incredibly talented and also caring about the safety of others these guys are.
That's the social media preview right there. I just don't have the ankles for it.
Just don't have the ankles for it. Yeah, I can fit that in. So, of course, after baseball comes the villains. In
Yeah.
red, again, they're all wearing red sets, which like differentiates them. But another thing that differentiates them is that these dancers are also pole dancers. And so
Yeah.
they bring out a pole for them to use like during their features and group numbers. And I like it as like a way to like re-engage your interest.
Mhm.
Like it switches up the game and brings yet another new style of dance to the table to celebrate, but also like it does exactly what the pacing of the movie does because like they're like yay we're in love and you think like that is going to be the story of Twilight, like it's just going to be them falling in love, but suddenly in the last 20 minutes there's this evil group of vampires and you're like whoa hang on where did this come from, there's a pole
Yeah.
now. Like I love it was a beautiful like accomplished so many things story-wise.
My thoughts on that scene, which this is one of those moments where it's like you're in English class and they're like, why are the curtains blue or whatever? It's like the author might just be like, because they were blue. So you don't know like what the intention was behind it. But I read into it a little bit and I was like, wait, this is so cool because you've got the other vampires you see, like the vegetarian vampires or whatever, the good guys who are grounded like the entire show. They do a lot of floor work too. I was like, was it intentional that then we see these like the bad guys or whatever who are known to be like nomadic and also not tame at all when it comes to how they're like interacting with people and stuff, and you've got them like all over the place. You've got them like high. There was one point I remember they were like high up on the pole too and moving around. And I was like, wait, we've got now like levels happening. We've
Yeah.
got all of this stuff. And like, how intentional was that? But also, it was brilliant. Like, you've got these characters that are solidly grounded the entire time and they're moving like along with the human characters, standing out, but fitting in well enough where it's like keeping their secret or whatever. And then you've got these guys come in and they're doing completely different stuff than you've seen the
They're
rest of,
in the air.
and they're trying to stand out. Like they don't care, right? And I thought that was so cool to see, especially for the bad guys, right? Like it's like usually, I don't know. I mean, like I think we're in an era with literature and all of that where people tend to favor the villains a little bit or like at least have a real soft spot for him. I never really got that impression with the villains from Twilight, and it made them likable. Like this made them
Mhm.
really interesting and likable. And then they were funny later on too.
In a
So
way, it also made them more of a threat, I think. Because
they're everywhere.
it's
They come
because
from the
like the
sky.
pole work itself is like, Bella, girl, you better like get it together. They have a whole ass pole. Like they're
They're
coming for
flying.
you.
Yeah.
And like they are supporting each other's body weight on a pole.
And then I'm like, is that because do they appear stronger because they drink human blood? No, I'm just kidding. That's too far into it. But maybe,
But
you know,
maybe. And
right.
then we get to the Benny Hill theme, Yakety Sax chase scene, which is so fun. They also had like a self-made remix, I believe, of Bad Blood and Bad Guy.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was someone involved with the production, I think on the technical side, had remixed that just for this show, which is amazing and novel and so fun.
Mhm. I need to make a playlist of all of the songs from the show in order.
So we were given access to like their unlisted pro shot, which credits a lot of the music if you wanted to put it in a playlist.
I know, I just haven't done it yet. Like, I need to do
I
that.
think it gets up until like a diamond and then it stops. But
Okay.
the James there so they do this like fun campy chase scene playing with their like back curtains as well. Like it's so cartoonish. It's lovely. Again, just another thing that they're celebrating and bringing to the table. But then solo, middle of the stage, a phone
My
that
favorite
is
part
in
of
the
the
shape
entire
of a
show.
mouth. James walks up, makes a call. Bella, you never told me your mom was a total MILF.
My favorite part of the whole show. One of the also, they don't use a lot of, not really any set pieces, but don't use a lot of props or anything like that
Hmm.
throughout. I mean, there are a couple of set pieces, but that was one of those moments where it's like, this is so extra, like to get this phone and everything.
It is, all of it is
Um,
so camp in the best
it's
way
so campy.
possible.
It's so
I
sure.
especially liked the moment after that phone call. It's Bella and James in the ballet studio. And I can cut this out if it's not correct. Um, but the partnering between the person that played James and the per and Maddy who plays Bella, like to see I never saw that growing up. It made my little queer heart happy to see two people with feminine bodies
Mhm.
dancing together, like doing partnering work. It made me it like made me really happy.
It was especially cool for Twilight because
Yeah.
there's absolutely no representation Twilight.
And like, yes, you are intended, like James is being played somewhat in drag in that case, but like to see the performers themselves like do that sort of partnering, it made me really happy.
Yeah, it was cool. Everything felt so mindful and respectful towards what they were attempting to accomplish, the art style, all of the actors or performers in this case. But then also still the source material, like nothing was blatantly like ripping like stuff apart or anything like that. You could tell it was coming from a really loving place and just like a new interpretation, which was really cool.
Speaking of interpretations, both Twihard and now this part of Twilight After Dark, where the Cullens come to confront the villains, have included so tell your boyfriend if he says he's got beef that I'm a vegetarian and I ain't fucking scared of him.
Yeah.
Which, like, I love that this is a common through line.
No, it's something that we definitely I mean, I remember because originally Dusk, I think we've addressed in earlier episodes, was a joke that was like posed as a jukebox musical. And that moment definitely had room to be included and stuff. But then not knowing, like, we've never written a parody before, I was like, what's gonna get us sued? Like we were like, we're gonna steer clear of anything that could get us in trouble. So I love that they were brave enough to do it and nothing
Yes.
bad has happened.
Oh, and then we launch into this whole like dance battle between the villains and
Mhm.
the Cullens, which is sort of how they got like paired up to do the one that stood out to me. Like you have like a battle between Rosalie and Victoria and a battle between well, the battle between Rosalie and Victoria as well brought back in the ballroom voguing, which was amazing. But there's a dance battle between Laurent and Jasper, which like and the way they approached it was so funny and so truthful because they are just the people that they're just there. And then they're like, "Okay, go out and fight each other." And they're like, "What do you mean? Like what am I supposed to do?"
That's true. A little
But
bit.
like Jasper and Laurent are the most just there characters in that
I guess
moment.
in that moment, I was like, excuse me? He doesn't, you don't think Jasper wants to fight? Because I just finished Eclipse, which is that's his time to shine. He's
Yeah.
like I am the army. Like, let me teach you. So I think it is funny though, in the first book or movie, book slash movie slash every parody we've seen so far, he is such a passive character. You don't get his
Like
back until later.
yeah, well, especially in that first moment, he just is there with his creepy staring face, and Laurent
Yeah.
is like, I don't know, I don't think I can control this guy, even though I'm obviously like in
He's like,
charge of him.
listen, we've been at this for a while, and you guys, I'm sorry, he's your problem
He's
now.
so tired. He just
Like,
wants a break.
I gotta go, but maybe go to Arizona and deal with this. But like, I'm out. Like, don't worry about me.
Just like does very little to actually be helpful.
Like, I'm not after you. Be back in a few months though.
Now, a new mantra to live by.
Okay.
Death is peaceful, slaying is harder. That
Yeah.
was my favorite line of the whole show.
That ending was so good to the show.
Yeah. Well, they also like during the whole dance battle, like sort of similarly to how we staged our battle as well, is like Bella's just writhing on the ground and Carlisle is like, "Okay, are we good? You like are you like good?" Like while the rest of this is going down. So they pull the focus back in so that we see Edward saving Bella. The voiceover says at one point, "What if I can't pull out?" Which I thought was so funny.
I think they did a really good job with the amount of time they dedicated to the antagonists here, especially because they had like the trio present throughout and building like that subplot. I guess
Yeah.
it's hard to call it a subplot because it becomes the plot of the end of the movie, but um and I thought that it was really cool the way that they interpreted that for Twihard too. And it like definitely I'm thinking about with Dusk. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, how would we do that differently and stuff? I know you were like, James needs more time and all of that.
But I'm biased.
I know. But the intention behind it on my end anyway was like it happened so abruptly in the movie. I'm like, so it's just like will happen so abruptly at the end of the show and be like, wait, what was that? But it was nice that they got more time to kind of explore all of those dynamics and how that all worked out. And I really liked how they handled it here. That
And
ending of the show was just so funny.
the ending of the show, you said?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what comes next.
Another incredibly quotable thing from my notes. Next is prom, and
Mhm.
I wrote down burlesque to flightless bird American mouth is so intensely Brechtian.
I would agree. I love that song. Like just in general, I'm like, whenever that comes on, I'm like, oh, I feel soothed. Like it's a good.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting it here. I liked it. It was
And
good.
then it like became all of their opportunities to bow, which was
Mhm.
really nice. I like the theater people know who my man Bertolt Brecht is. It was just like that moment that like in this case takes you out of it in a good way. You're like, what am I watching?
Mhm.
It was so great.
But like that's so Twilight too. Like you get to
Yeah.
the end and you're like, you're reminded after all of this madness that just went on, and she almost died, and she's like, it's okay though, because I love him. Like I could die and that would be fine. And then she's like back in high school. She's like the
And his prom.
next weekend it's prom,
Yay!
And through that, like she's at prom not with any of her friends or anything, just with him being like, yeah, I'm ready for immortality now. It's like it's been 3 months. Like what's going on?
Girl, you
So
didn't like they don't I have also turned to 25 throughout the filming of the Tulip podcast. And
mhm.
like girl doesn't even have her frontal lobe yet. Like it's not fully developed.
Did your thoughts on Twilight After Dark change?
No. But I was sitting there like thinking about like accepting immortality at 17. Girl,
I
your
was
frontal lobe isn't done yet.
your love is
Your frontal lobe is not done yet.
yeah, there were a lot of moments where I've mentioned before on here, I think that I've revisited Twilight as like I've grown up to see if it means anything different or anything else stands out to me as I've grown. And one that hasn't changed is I'm like, I don't know. I just think she's making some choices that are a little permanent, a little rash.
Just a little.
Like earlier today, I was talking to Eva, who plays BX. We were talking about some character development stuff about how, like, I just think maybe if you've realized you're in love with another person, and you did not know that before, the day or two after you got engaged, maybe pause on the wedding rather than being like,
Yeah.
if it's still happening in 2 months.
There are a lot of conversations that you should be having before you tie the knot, and I don't think they have very many of them.
Everyone in the show portrayed their characters so well. Maddy clearly has a good understanding of Bella and also what her interpretation of the
Yeah.
character's motivations are and everything.
I know Maddie shared with us, like, when we were talking about some of our favorite moments, like, that some of it wasn't intentional, but
Mhm.
whether or not, like, all of these standout moments that we've discussed today were intentional or not, it is incredibly genius what they've done with the story.
I'm so glad it's coming back and that more people can
Yeah.
see it. I would
I'm
recommend
wishing
this.
you all an amazingly successful run. All
Yeah.
of these performers are so talented. Like,
And if they're running at the same time, make a weekend of it and go see Twilight After Dark and
absolutely.
Fly Hard. They're both in Chicago.
Yeah, so that's where you guys can see them. I forget the exact name of the hall that Twilight After Dark was performed at, but I
Yeah.
don't think they'll be using this. They might not use the same venue, is the point I'm trying to make. But I know Twihard is coming back to Otherworld.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, any other thoughts you would like to share on Twilight After Dark?
I want to make everyone in Dusk learn a burlesque number. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. But I do think
Get ready.
so cool. Like that would be it would be cool crossover. I'm like everyone should be learning more about
I've
this. Like,
pitched my crossover already.
no, I think it would be really cool to see more popular works turned into burlesque for sure. Like
Yeah.
especially things that aren't expected that fit it well. Like Twilight's one of those ones where, as far as I know, these are the only people doing this right now, like a
Yeah.
last Twilight parody. And it's genius. Like that idea just feels like it fits so well. It's like it feels so obvious. And they do it so well too. That's what I'm just keep saying. I'm like, I'm so glad they're coming back. Like I think more people should be seeing it.
Even if
Hopefully,
you've like never experienced burlesque before, if you like are first of all going to be respectful about it, but
mhm.
like second of all, if it's something that you have heard about or like have like even the tiniest strip of interest in, go see it. You'll
Yeah.
like it will change your worldview.
I also think plugging their video, but
Yes.
that renting that or buying that would be a really good way to find out if it's like performance material you enjoy and like a good way to see if you're comfortable with seeing it in person. Because I could see like people maybe that aren't familiar with burlesque and not knowing what they're getting into being like, oh, that wasn't what I expected.
Right.
But having the video available if you are 18 plus and want to go watch it, I think that it's a very nice intro to what the art form can be and a
Mhm.
fun way of doing it because you'll be familiar with the storyline.
And hey, I will put it on screen right now. Go follow Twilight After Dark on all of
Mhm.
their socials. I don't know exactly what that includes. I know there's an Instagram, but I will figure out the rest. You will see the icons. Do
Yep.
it. Support them, please.
Yeah, they're great.
They deserve so many flowers, so many tips. Oh my goodness. We got to bring tips with us when we go.
Right, right. I was like when we go, I'm like, yeah, when is it? I'm like planning ahead. I'm like,
Yeah.
when do I have off? Yeah,
How much money will I be able to budget out just
yeah,
to throw at
right.
them?
I get back from Fringe and then I go to that.
Yeah. Well, that sort of brings us to the end of the Tulip podcast, but I did have one question about Dusk before we go.
Oh boy.
So, at the point of this episode being released, I am like 90% sure it's going to be after the run of Dusk, a bite-sized celebration, and No Filter. So,
Okay.
if you want to tell yourself one, or yourself, the cast, whoever, like one thing like that you want to look back on this whole process, like a message for yourself in the future.
Ooh, that's tough. I hope you survived. No, no, I'm just kidding. I think I don't know. What do you mean like a message?
I mean, I have a message that I would like to share that's a bit more, oh man, I felt myself getting emotional. This is gonna be fun. Um,
Yeah, let me hear the tone of yours and I'll see if I have any.
yeah, my message was I want to cross-reference this, so just give me a second.
Okay. I think the message I have, especially we have a couple new cast members joining, and then we have to this point, I think have worked with 32 performers throughout Dusk's existence, including the workshop and last year's Fringe run. So we'll have touched a lot of people with Dusk and have had so many people involved creatively and collaborating from all around the world, which is such a huge feat. And I'm so proud of everyone that's done it. Like, it's amazing that we've pulled that off. Last year, we accomplished more than I think I've processed. Like, we didn't expect to get any of the internet support and attention that we have or to have sold out any shows. Like, the fact that we sold out the entire run was shocking. And that's something I'm like so proud of the cast for how well they handled all of that, but then also just like how much they supported each other through it and like kept like they kept the morale up and everything. And we did have obstacles come up and everything. Like they loved each other enough to come back and do it again in like a new form. And everyone has been just fantastic to work with. But I also think it says a lot about what you can accomplish with people unsuspectingly, like people from different places that you otherwise would not have connected with
Yeah.
at all. And sometimes, like the thing that brings you together, it isn't something that is super like monumental or serious, or maybe might not like feel super important or anything like that. But I'm really grateful that this project has united people in that way, especially like the cast and crew that we get to work with, because I can't imagine not knowing and working with all of them. Like they've brought so much life to the show and the story and everything, but then just also so much like creative inspiration to us, like as a creative team, which has been really cool. All of us are now, for the most part, like working on these side projects or like future projects and stuff. And I'm really glad that we have created a bit of a platform and a space that's able to support that. So, like, props to everyone who's been involved for all of that. That's super
Go
cool.
follow them.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we have the ability to be able to help like emerging artists produce new work and stuff. So hopefully everyone that's been following along here gets to see some of the new stuff that everyone's been working on. We'll definitely keep you guys up to date on projects as they evolve and develop and stuff like that. But I think the message is just really like be proud of yourselves. You guys have done something that I'm shocked by a lot of the time, but also not at all. Because I'm like, if it was going to be anyone to accomplish something like this while maintaining their regular personal lives and just all the other craziness, like there was a reason it was this group of people and they've handled it like champs. And I hope we get to keep working with them in this capacity or other creative capacities in the future. It's been really cool. And then the audience too has been phenomenal. And the reason that we're doing it, like if we didn't have so many people that were engaging with the type of material that we're putting out and just like understanding our sense of humor in it, like it wouldn't be fun for us to do and we wouldn't do it anymore. But there have been so many people who've been supportive and followed along the entire time. And I guess like thank you for having been here, but also stay tuned for what's coming in the
Yeah.
future. We have Dusk plans and bonus content plans and stuff. Like the list of things at this point, like I've said, we go to Edinburgh again in a month. We're open in a month and we are there for several weeks and have so many plans of like additional content that we're filming or new things that we're working on and all of that. So there's going to be more stuff coming out. But thank you for being here. Thank you to the
Yeah.
cast and crew for everything, blood, sweat, tears.
Having listened through the podcasts as well, a common thread for a lot of our performers, like me, I know this is true for me especially, but especially for like people who had just graduated their respective schools and stuff like that, to
Mhm.
get to be involved in such a big and beloved project as well, like to be the one picked to be a, I'm getting emotional, to
Ah,
be the one picked to be a part of that has been such a blessing. So thank you.
no, we feel
And
the same way about everybody though.
yeah,
Like,
it's
why did you
it's
trust us enough to do that?
it has made me feel incredibly capable and like the artistry that I bring to the table and to the industry is worth investing in and putting out there to how I think our Instagram is almost at 40K people right now. Like that's insane. And then the one thing that I was anticipating saying, just a message to some of the cast members who are listening that makes me emotional in anticipation of saying it. Specifically to Dylan, Scarlett, Beck, Anthony, Sarah Chessie, Allie, Caroline. Um, we are the group of people, including myself, not
Mhm.
returning to this year's Fringe production, for whatever reason is valid.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of like re-editing the podcast and stuff has brought up a lot of memories, but has also given me just this intense FOMO of like, oh man, I'm not doing it this time. But like to all these people that I have just named, like we are still a part of this family. You belong here. You have helped make this show what it is. I
Yeah.
love you and miss you. Everyone loves you and misses
Mhm.
you. And I can't wait for the next time that we get to do something together.
Yeah.
Um,
We will welcome all of you back at any time and are so grateful and have so much love and respect for everybody. And just hopefully in the future, there's a time to get everyone reunited and working on something again. If it's not Dusk, then something else. But
and just
yeah.
like however you're feeling about it is so valid. And I mean, you have my number. You can text me if you want. I mean, some of these people I'm in daily contact with anyways, which is so nice. But like we still have a place at this table. Don't feel like it's being taken away from you. We have so many new friends to welcome into this family and not a goodbye, a see you later.
Yes. And as always, we're working on additional stuff that you guys can be involved in as much as you want.
Which is how I got my gig as editor.
Mhm.
Well, without further ado, wrapping up this, the last bonus episode, I think, unless we get a random idea in this season of the Too Lit podcast. That was Morgan Kennedy, the beautiful, amazing, talented. This is
Yeah.
Sarah Michelle. I don't know how I'm wrapping it up so weird, but it's been lovely to have you all here. Go support Twilight After Dark.
Mhm.
and follow them on their socials, visit them as they go back up, hopefully in October of this year. Um, Follow Dusk on all of our social medias. You can stream the Pro Shot or listen to the album on any major streaming platform. Without further ado, that is it for us today. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye.